and it is a dark time for my team at the moment. So I'm just going to ask to have the floor for like 3 minutes, and then I want you guys to give me any thoughts you might have. So as you guys all know, Jake Gensel gone, traded at the deadline. And ever since that happened, the team is in absolute shambles. So for those people, asking what is Dubas doing? Why is he doing this? Just so everybody knows, there's a lot of bad contracts that Mr. Ron Hextall gave this team that really had Dubas's hands tied. And, for rentals, especially this year, it was a buyer's market. It was pretty rare you were getting a first round pick for any rentals at all. Maybe Gensel could have hauled it if they wanted to go that route, but they didn't. Dubas wanted players. So Rust, no move clause. Carlson, no move clause. Raquel and Smith, I think they're both like near, if not higher than a $5 million cap hit. Nedeljkovic and Eller, I was a little surprised as well to not see those guys go. So all in all, I mean, I knew Jake was going to go, but I thought they were going to clean house. They ended up not doing that. And Jake Gensel is now a Carolina Hurricane. He is making his debut as we are recording this. Now, I want to talk about the trade here just for a second to give some Pens fans who are maybe listening some background. So Gensel goes to the Canes, 25% retained salary, and Ty Smith. Pens get back Michael Bunting, Vili Kuvanen, Vasil Panamarov, Cruz Lucius, a 2024 second, and a 2024 fifth. So I know I botched some of those names, but I'm just going to give you guys some notes. I did some research. Good friend of the program, old interview guest, Jesse Marshall, did a deep dive on this, so I wanted to just share. Vili Kuvanen having one of the best under 21 seasons in Finnish Elite League history. He has 55 points. That is the most points by someone his age, 21 or younger, in 30 years. Vasil Panamarov, in practice at Wilkes-Barre already. He's played 2 career NHL games, both this season with the Canes. He had a goal and an assist in those 2 games. And Mac, we actually just watched him play when I was visiting you about a month ago for the Chicago Wolves. So he's been playing with them.
Indeed.
And then Cruz Lucius, perhaps one of the coolest names in hockey, out of the University of Wumbo, Wisconsin, for those who don't know. Sophomore, 34 points in 35 games this season. He leads the University of Wisconsin in scoring. So they get back some names. Obviously, they didn't get any of the big names that they wanted. I know Jackson Blake was one of the most coveted names. They didn't get the big prospect. All in all, it was a shitty deadline. There's no way to cookie cut that. You don't get what you want. Gensel goes. You keep the guys that you probably don't want, and it's looking dark, man. I mean, the next couple seasons for the Pens, Dubas said when he was hired that he wanted to keep them competitive. I don't know how they're going to do that, truthfully. And then ever since that deadline, I mean, their last 3 games against Washington, Boston, and Edmonton, Malkin has a 0 shots on goal in those 3 games. The Penguins have scored 1 goal in those 3 games total. They've been outscored 15-1 in those 3 games, and they went 0 for 14 on the power play. And per Adam Gretz, that was the worst 3-game stretch statistically of Sidney Crosby's entire Penguins career, not by him, but the team, which is just crazy to think about. So obviously people look at Sullivan. He just signed the extension in the summer of 2022. He's got 3 more years. I don't know if he's going to make it. We just saw Lindy Ruff get canned after signing an extension 10 months ago. So that doesn't really mean much, in my opinion. I think the season's shot. We're now tanking for Celebrini instead of looking at the standings for wild card position. So that's really my State of the Union on the Penguins. It's dark right now.
A good, very well researched, might I add, State of the Union. Nice
Yeah.
job. It's weird. I don't know. The hardest thing for me is like the main question that you keep seeing people be on one side or the other of on Twitter is like, you got the guys that are in the camp of, you got to trade Crosby. It's not right to him, man. He's having the season of his life and he's still got mileage left. Send him somewhere for a chance to win another. And then you've got the other side of things where it's like, no, like let him, he got 3 cups. He's going to retire a Penguin. Try and do what you can to build around him, but also like, they feel for him that he's pissed for the Gensel thing. There's just a lot of layers here. So it's interesting to hear from you, kind of what side, where you fall and all that. I don't know where I fall in it. I feel like it's not as a Caps fan, I feel like it's almost not my place to take a side in all of that. But yeah.
So you're
So
asking, or Nick, you go. Sorry.
So obviously, I think like the big issue that I saw with the Gensel trade was people were not happy with the return. They were saying for the kind of player we're giving up with basically what that core in that team has done over the last, what, 20 years, pretty much. I
Yeah.
mean, with Gensel, the last 10,
Right.
you're saying it's not worth it. I mean, had you thrown in someone like Jackson Blake or the kid that's at Maine, whose name escapes me right now, are you a little bit happier there, Harry? Or are you still going, nah, fuck that?
I, I mean, I'd probably be a little more pumped because I know that it's like a blue chip prospect, but I also understand where Dubas is coming from. It's got to be a little bit of a numbers game. I mean, we really don't have
Yeah.
anybody in the prospect pool. We have a couple names. Brandon Yeager, our first round pick from last year, he looks good. Sam Pullian, he's probably one of the guys who will come up. He was one of our other first round picks a few years back, but other than that, I mean, we don't have anybody.
I
So
understand why they traded him. I mean, you basically had to because he
yeah,
he was going to walk in the summer. We all know that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
It's
Carolina would have offered him probably a ton of money in the summer, and then he would have gone there anyways. But are
exactly.
you now
Well,
on like,
that's the thing. Yeah. It's like
yeah,
you had to move for something.
right?
So obviously in the summer in July, there's conflicting reports. I don't know who to believe, but there are people who are saying Sid will sign his extension July 1, minutes after he's allowed to. And there are now some other camps that are saying maybe that's not going to be the case. If you really wanted my opinion on how it'll play out, I think July 1, Sid signs a 2-year extension. And I believe if he does that, it will close out at the same time as when Letang retires, probably. And that's how I feel like it'll end. And then maybe he goes somewhere else when he's 40 or 41 years old and he wants one more kick at the can.
So you don't think that, I mean, because with how he's played this year and his whole career, obviously, but specifically this year at his age, I think another team, I know like he's not going to want to go to another team, but I think someone would give him more tenure if he wanted it, is my point.
I'm sure. I don't really think money is
Someone, a team in blue and white, would do that.
I don't really think money's going to be an issue. I think for him, it's really what does he want to do, and I think
Right.
because he kind of forced the hand of Hextall to extend Malkin and Letang, I
Yeah,
think
that's
he'll I,
true.
I think he'll ride it out.
It would be kind of an asshole move, I guess, to be like, all right, actually, anyway, peace though.
And I know
So
I'm dragging this discussion long, but now you're hearing all the rumblings of Eric Carlson back to Ottawa. Does that make sense? Daniel Alfredsson's there. He's boys with Alfredsson. They've got the Swedish connection and all this stuff. So I don't know what's going to happen. All I'm saying is the deadline sucked. I'm not thrilled with the return, but I also am not going to say it's a complete failure like some fans are. I read the stats on some of the prospects. There's probably one of them that will pan out to be a good middle six guy, decent middle six guy, and we move on. It happens.
So obviously, like those you mentioned, the last three games that the team has played have been terrible. And I'll say firsthand, that game that the Capitals played against them was the worst I've ever seen the Penguins play in my entire life. The
Yep.
Washington Capitals are struggling to get into a wild card playoff spot right now, and they picked that team apart
yep.
like it
Yeah,
was a rotisserie chicken. Like, I mean, just fork and knife went to town until there was just bones left on the ice.
carved.
So I thought Malkin looked like the
Oh,
worst player on the ice in the entire game. What is going on with him, man? Like, is
yeah,
it just total like checkout right now?
he hasn't shot the puck in 10 periods.
Right.
Like,
Like,
forget points, forget
Yeah.
Reardon, forget power play. He hasn't shot the puck in 10 periods of hockey. I don't even know how that's possible. And I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who the announcer was on Sunday against the Oilers. And maybe it was Ferraro between the bench, but I can't remember who it was, but they were saying he has to be hurt or something's wrong because for Gino to not shoot the puck for 3 games in a row, that just isn't like him. Like I don't
Emotionally
understand.
hurt.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus. So my whole thing, and I'm going to stand on this all summer long. He is no longer able to carry his weight as the second line center. I think you move him to the wing with Sid. You let them ride it out till the end as line mates, and you got to get a second line center into Pittsburgh somehow. I don't
I
know how
kind
you
of
do
like
that.
that.
That
but
makes a lot more sense to me than what they're
That
doing
makes
right
sense
now.
to me for sure.
Yeah.
I hear that.
but they are not going to be a competitive team next year or the year after. This is going to be a couple dark years. And you know what? People make fun of them online and people are having a fun time saying the Penguins are dead. And there's a couple people I would love to name right now, but I'm going to be a good guy and not name names. But you know what? At the end of the day, you can't win forever, right? I mean, even Tom Brady at the end, it looked ugly at some points, right? So you got your 3 cups. I wouldn't trade it for a thing. And here we are. We knew it would come one day.